Here we go. Wherever you may be listening, thank you for tuning in. As always, I am the voice of the casual wrestling fan base, Nerdy D. We got to talk about Kevin Owens tonight. We got a bone to pick with YouTube, and we've got to make our predictions for Saturday night's main event. All that and more. This is the Casual Wrestling Podcast.
Notorious.
Big it up, big it up.
Yeah.
Here we go.
All right, let's not waste any time. Let's start by talking about Sami Zayn and just kind of the landscape that Sami Zayn laid out last night on Monday Night Raw. Sami's promo was fantastic. No question, Sami's a passionate guy. He was out there pouring his heart out for the WWE Universe, saying that he doesn't need to be the champion, but he wants to be the champion. And you know what? I actually believe Sami Zayn. To me, this feels like we're entering the final chapter of the Sami Zayn Underdog Chronicles. And here's the reality. Here's the spoiler alert for you guys. Sami doesn't have the juice to actually win the Royal Rumble. And I know. Already starting the show off with a hot take. Don't come for me in the comments. Sami Zayn is great. Sami's fine. We all like Sami Zayn, but let's be real. If this guy is winning, then Vince McMahon's coming back to WWE. Like this, they have the same odds of happening. It's not a possibility. I love that Kevin Owens came out to show his support. I love that Kevin Owens came out to tease a world heavyweight title match at WrestleMania. That all got my attention. I think there's other ways we could get there, but I think the reality is we're not getting a Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn collision course through the Royal Rumble. It's just not happening through the Royal Rumble. I don't think, but we're setting up. This is a big Royal Rumble. The expectation for this Royal Rumble, they're setting it extremely high. They're setting it high because they're putting guys like Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre in the main event of Monday Night Raw, just having a slugfest, plain and simple, going at each other. Like they are setting the table for an epic Royal Rumble. And we got to talk about Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre while we're on that topic. Guys, this is why we love professional wrestling. If you didn't appreciate Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre, I don't know what you're expecting to see on TV. It was great storytelling, killer wrestling, had a WrestleMania callback moment where Seth Rollins taunted Drew McIntyre about being injured during a match. It was wrestling beauty. Wrestling beauty. And one of the reasons that I don't think Sami Zayn has a chance to win the Royal Rumble is because of our guy Drew McIntyre. Drew's coming off of 2 high-profile losses. One to Jey Uso, now one to Seth Rollins. I think that makes him an extremely dangerous character coming into the Royal Rumble. A frustrated Drew McIntyre, a beat-down Drew McIntyre is a guy that you don't want to run into when you have to throw 29 other guys over the top of the ropes in order to win. You don't want to meet Drew McIntyre in the Royal Rumble. I'm telling you, my odds shot up when Drew McIntyre lost that match. The probability shot up that I think Drew McIntyre is now one of my favorites to win the Royal Rumble the weekend after next. Now, of course, we can talk about the other candidates, right? We can talk about CM Punk. I still think CM Punk has pretty good odds to be your Royal Rumble winner. I think Punk did what he does best this last Monday. He stirred the pot. He put the entire roster on notice. He was out there calling out Roman Reigns for needing help at War Games. He was reminding Drew McIntyre of their Hell in the Cell match. He's dunking on Sami Zayn for not being on his level. He's flexing his wrestling muscles on Seth Rollins about beating him on the first Netflix episode of Monday Night Raw. And he even threw a cheap shot in at Hulk Hogan for being a dusty old wrestler. That's classic CM Punk. Doing what CM Punk does, getting us ready. I think CM Punk is another guy we're going to have to watch out for going into the Royal Rumble. Here's the kicker. Here's my new issue with the base of fans that are saying CM Punk to win the Royal Rumble. I don't think CM Punk needs to win the Royal Rumble. I think over the last couple of weeks, him and Seth Rollins have elevated themselves to a place where they're now above the title picture. They don't need it anymore. They don't need it to elevate that story. I think there was a moment in time where Triple H thought, oh, yeah, we'll do Seth Rollins, CM Punk for the World Heavyweight title, and that's going to get a ton of fanfare. I think after the last couple of weeks, these two guys have elevated to another level where they don't need the loot. They don't need the prize. They don't need the treasure. These two guys can just go out there and slugfest. And to me, that's my argument against CM Punk winning the Royal Rumble is he doesn't need it, right? So like I said, we are setting up for maybe the biggest Royal Rumble of all time. Like sneakily, this Royal Rumble is kind of playing out in front of us and the stars are lining up. We got CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn. We got John Cena. Like, it's great to see John Cena's going to be in the Royal Rumble. I think that's all nostalgia. I think it's all fun. It's all great. I don't think any of us actually believe that John Cena is. Does anybody really, like, let me know in the comments. Does anybody really believe that John Cena has odds on winning this thing? Because I say no way. I say this is just the first stop on the John Cena farewell tour, and I'm okay with that. I think this is a great place to kind of set up whatever the first step of the farewell tour is. We can kind of lay the seeds in the Royal Rumble match for what that's going to be. But let me ask you guys, you got to tell me, am I overreacting? Is this the most star-packed Royal Rumble in history? Because I really think it might be. For first time in a long time, in the men's Royal Rumble, I don't think there's a clear favorite. Like every big name right now is at the top of their game. And so I think there's so many different directions you could go. And it's almost like WWE has finally decided we're not going to mess around. We're not going to bullshit anymore. We're going to actually deliver. And I think I'm all in for it. I think this is going to be maybe the best Royal Rumble that I've watched in my life. All right, so let's stick with Raw here and let's break down the rest of Raw because I think there's quite a bit to cover. I have thoughts that I want to get off my chest. And let's start with this. Let me start by saying out loud, I've officially hit my limit with Gunther. And I've tried to be patient. We've all pretended to like him. We all kind of liked him in 2024 when he was the Intercontinental Championship. We nodded along. We all said he's old school. He's got that old gritty feel. But it's 2025 now. And the snooze general has just worn out his welcome. I'm so over Gunther at this point. Gunther is the Sesame Street of professional wrestling heels. He's safe, he's corny, and he completely lacks that it factor. Every time Gunther talks, I roll my eyes so hard that I swear to God, I can see the back of my head. I really believe it's time. It is time to move on. It's time for Jey Uso to step in and save us. Jay's crowd reactions right now are unreal. I don't think you're ever going to get Jey Uso to a higher point than he is right now. He's got charisma. He's got energy. He's got everything that you want the guy carrying the title to have. Let's put it on his back. Let's see what this looks like. Let's play the Jey Uso experiment right now. Picture this. Let's go into WrestleMania. 80,000 Vegas strong fans yeeting and cheering with the main event champion. That's a visual that WWE dreams about. That is something that they can play over and over and over again. Now, do you want Jey Uso winning it at WrestleMania? I could see that, but I also think that they may be to the point where they're fed up with Gunther and they go, now's the time. Saturday night main event. Everybody's already calling this a glorified house show. Let's go ahead and let's have a big moment. Let's have a big surprise that we can talk about heading in to the Royal Rumble. I also like the optics because I don't know where Jey fits into the Royal Rumble. If he loses to Gunther, I don't know where he fits into the Royal Rumble. That could get messy very quickly with the amount of kind of bloodline members that are going to be involved in the Royal Rumble. I like the optics of Jey being champion and not needing to be in that match. Now, look, sure. I said it. I'm a Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens guy. That's, if I had my way, I would go Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens for the World Heavyweight Championship. But I'm also a smart guy, and I'm also casual enough to understand that right now the most commercially, widely appealing person in WWE is Jey Uso. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, they appeal to a little bit more of a hardcore fan base. Jey Uso is the money guy. He's the money guy. And I think Gunther has overstayed his welcome. So I think at Saturday Night Main Event, it can't come fast enough, guys. We can't get to Saturday fast enough. Let's hand the title to Jey Uso, and let's jump on this road to WrestleMania with some real excitement. Let's put the ball in the hands of the guys that actually get the crowd moving, and let's make Vegas like a party. Let's yeet it up as we get to Las Vegas. Now, speaking of excitement, let's talk about Triple H, because this man is cooking with these Saturday Night Main Event cards. I'll say it. Number one, he knocked it out the park. Might have been a glorified house show, but it was extremely fun to watch. And now Monday night, I think he put on a masterclass of short-term booking and short-term storytelling by kind of bringing some stories together pretty quickly and giving us a card that makes it look at least exciting to sit through. I thought the Nia Jax ambush of Rhea Ripley to start the show in the parking lot was absolutely brilliant. I didn't see it coming. It's not what I expected. And to me, that's when wrestling's at its best, is when things are happening that I didn't expect. And I've had this gripe and this complaint over the last couple of months is Rhea Ripley has to feel vulnerable. And I think Nia Jax is one of those people who can at least give a shadow of doubt to the invincibility that is Rhea Ripley. Because let's be real, right? Rhea Ripley wins so often and so decisively that she's basically a walking spoiler alert. And going into Saturday, I don't even think it's a title match. I'm not saying that Rhea Ripley's going to lose. I'm just saying that there are some situations and some possibilities that can make Saturday interesting in how they decide to play that out. We got the kind of pull apart standard WWE brawl, which I know a lot of the IWC complain about, but I think it's the most effective way to make a match feel big is to do the classic, these two don't like each other, these two are going after each other, we have to empty the locker room to pull them apart, but this one breaks free and hits this one, and this one breaks free and hit this one. I call me old school, I still like that. I think it still gives the big fight feel. And coming off of kind of an endless Liv Morgan storyline for Rhea Ripley, I'm not opposed to Rhea Ripley being in a couple of these short-term stories where we just see kind of the chips in the Rhea Ripley armor. We see that Nia Jax is effective against this part and maybe someone else is effective against this part. As we kind of shape what WrestleMania is going to be for Rhea Ripley, I'm okay if we have some interchangeable pieces for the next couple of weeks. I think they're actually a little bit refreshing, you could say. But then there's Bayley. We got to talk about Bayley because I'll admit it, there was a part of me that's starting to think Bayley had lost some of her magic. She was starting to feel stale. It felt like she was coasting. It didn't even feel like she always really wanted to be there. But moving her to Monday Night Raw, I think that was the right choice. I think it's a chance for her to kind of hit reset. I think she can redefine who her character is. She can go after Rhea Ripley if she wants. It looks like she's running some stories in NXT, which are not a bad idea. I wouldn't be shocked if Bayley turns heel down the road and sets her sights on Rhea Ripley, because I'll say, I've said this for a long time. The most interesting Bayley is heel Bayley. Bayley just does heel better than she does babyface. When she's babyface, she has to commit to the John Cena style of over-the-top pandering to the crowd. When she's heel, it feels like it's more just natural sarcasm that comes out, and it makes her much more fun to watch, I would say. Speaking of fun to watch, and speaking of Triple H and giving him praise on booking, there are some things that I question about Triple H. There's some things that Triple H puts his fingerprints on that tend to intrigue me a little bit, right? Case in point, Lyra Valkyria last week. I called her the weird kid who eats paper in class, and 100%. I still stand by that. I still don't see what everybody sees in Lyra Valkyria. Still says she dresses in bird cosplay, and I don't understand that. And then my guy We Too Deep stepped up. He stepped up on Discord. He hit me up, and he explained to me what he thinks is in play here. He says that the Lyra Valkyria thing is all about setting up Lyra Valkyria versus Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. And I'll admit, We Too Deep got my attention. He got my attention. He got me to pay attention. He got me to focus in a little bit. Lyra Valkyria does not scream Intercontinental Champion to me. She does not scream WrestleMania moment. But her connection to Becky Lynch and their shared history is intriguing to me. It intrigues me enough that I go, I'll play along. I'll listen. But I'll be honest. I'll be real honest. I still think I have some Becky Lynch fatigue. So anything that keeps Becky Lynch out of the main events of WrestleMania, I think that might excite me a little bit. Anything that puts Becky Lynch into a mid-card situation instead of taking one of those main event spots, that sounds refreshing to me. I like the idea that they could pull this off. Lyra Valkyria versus Becky Lynch. I think in the ring, these are two of the most talented women. I will not take away anything from the fact that in the ring, Lyra Valkyria is good. Becky Lynch is good. What they did in NXT was solid when they went after each other. So I won't argue that. I just don't think that Lyra Valkyria, from a casual commercial appeal, I'm not seeing the potential here. But this is the thing. This is all or nothing for me. Like I am now invested in this. I am invested in this story that We Too Deep told me. If this match doesn't happen, or this match doesn't deliver, I'm now personally holding We Too Deep responsible. Now he has no control over it, but you know what? You put this in my brain. You're now responsible for this idea that I'm excited about in my head. So We Too Deep, now just know I'm watching you. So you don't let me down. Do what you've got to do. Pray to whatever wrestling gods you got to pray to. You got to make this happen, because now you've got me excited about Lyra Valkyria, which is words that I never thought would come out of my mouth. Now, finally, let's talk about the New Day. This heel turn, man. This heel turn for the New Day is still one of the most brilliant heel turns that I've seen in my professional wrestling watching career. Everyone thought we were getting a breakup, myself included. We all thought this was headed towards a breakup. And instead, we just got the next chapter of arguably, once again, used to have the Usos number one, but I think with this masterful heel turn, I think the New Day are number one again. So we're seeing the next chapter of the greatest tag team of all time hit us with an absolute swerve. But I have some concerns. For this to actually work, we're going to have to complete the rebrand. The rebrand is going to have to be perfect, and it's going to have to come full circle. We already saw the all black gear on Monday Night Raw. Good start. Love it. Love just changing the tone. Now we need new music. We need new merch, and we need a slightly more aggressive version of Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. I think Xavier will have no problem. I think this is Taylor built for Xavier Woods, but we're going to have to see Kofi shift and see how Kofi can work in this New Day. I call it Darkest Day, but I don't think you can change the name. I don't think you can change the name, because right now they've already got the crowd reaction. They got the New Day sucks chant. I don't think they just need a darker edge to the New Day, and I think it'll work out. I know I've seen the IWC absolutely lose their mind. As they tend to do. The IWC is losing their mind because Kofi Kingston took a loss to Rey Mysterio. You got to relax, guys. You got to relax, and you got to understand the psychological aspects of storytelling. Because if you look deep what this story is about two guys who kind of believe they're not getting their respect. It's about two guys who I believe have singles title aspirations. And so the more they get into that ring by themselves and not together and lose matches, just reconfirms that without the New Day, without each other, they're not as strong. So the psychology is, if Kofi gets in that ring and he loses a single match, and then if next week Xavier gets in the ring and he loses a singles match, we start to see That the only way that Kofi and Xavier can exist is when they're in that ring together. So we got to stop overprotecting them and stop overreacting to them. It's brilliant storytelling. It actually is. And frankly, like AEW fans, stop reacting to this and understand this is how, when y'all guys talk about long-term storytelling, this is actual long-term storytelling, not the bullshit where you make up something that happened 6 years ago and it just coincidentally corresponds to what's going on now. This is long-term psychological storytelling in place. And we'll continue to talk about Big E is the wild card here. Like, I still know that's a long shot. If Big E ever gets cleared, this story has potential to hit epic proportions. But for right now, WWE's just created a phenomenal heel tag team in a division that, after what we've seen the last couple weeks, desperately needs fresh blood. Like, you have the War Raiders, you have the Judgment Day. They seem to just fight over the tag team titles over and over again. The New Day can be kind of a spark of fresh air for the Raw tag team division. I'd like to see what a New Day heel tag team title run looks like. So that's Raw. That's kind of Raw in a nutshell. That's what I took away. Like another 2 hour and 30 minute kind of tight put together Monday Night Raw. Not a lot of fluff, a little bit of everything. I think title pictures getting ready for a shakeup. Women's divisions firing on all cylinders. I think the tag team scene could be heating up with the New Day. So I think, once again, I'm gonna call this another successful Monday Night Raw. I'm going to go on record and say I think so far 3 for 3 in the Netflix era. That's the way I feel about it. All right, so that means that it's time for the good, the bad, and the worrisome from Friday Night SmackDown this week. Let's not waste time. Let's start with the good, because one man is carrying a brand on his back, and that man is Kevin Owens, people. Let's just agree right now. Everybody sign my petition. Kevin Owens is the best professional wrestler in the entire world. This man is the Swiss Army knife of professional wrestling. The man does not do any one single thing bad. Mic work, he's probably the best. Storytelling, he's unmatched, right? Sticking to the gimmick, nobody even can hold a candle to him. And so what? Yeah, he doesn't do 1,000 flips. He doesn't pull out every trick in the bag in every match. He doesn't have to. He just uses what's needed in the moment. That's our guy, Kevin Owens. Now let's talk about this match with Rey Mysterio, because low key, you want to talk about dream matches? You AEW fans, you want to talk about dream matches? Both of these guys, long-term veterans, right? 20 plus years in the game, but somehow these two guys have never crossed paths in the ring. And what does Triple H do? He finds a way to seamlessly weave these two guys into a match using, here we go, AEW fans, I know this is hard for you guys to believe, but he used an existing storyline to set up a dream match for Friday Night SmackDown. Mwah! That is how you do it. And here's the part that blows my mind. This is the big, crazy ringer of the whole situation. Kevin Owens is carrying a fake title belt. He is carrying the winged eagle, or whatever we're calling it. And it doesn't feel corny at all. Is there any other wrestler in professional wrestling that could carry around a fake belt and not get made fun of for it? And here's the bigger part. Here's the kicker. Kevin Owens is gaining sympathy from the WWE universe. This guy is walking a razor-thin line that most wrestlers can't even see on the ground. I keep hearing people compare wrestlers to Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? We go Becky Lynch, the next Stone Cold Steve Austin. We've thrown out these names all the time. But I think there's one person that we could actually compare that has the potential to be a Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think that's Kevin Owens. It's hard not to see the parallels. Just imagine running a 2025 anti-establishment Kevin Owens storyline where he goes after like a Nick Aldis. That's money, man. That's money. Kevin Owens can sell us on that. He can sell us on that story. Meanwhile, let's take a side trip here. Tony Khan, maybe take a couple notes. Instead of slapping the words dream match on random matches by going on Twitter and announcing, I've got a big announcement, maybe try doing what Triple H did here and building around some context. It's just a thought. It's a suggestion. You do what you want, Tony Khan. But what you saw on Friday was a masterclass in how to have a dream match and tie it all into an existing storyline. All right, so while I give Triple H his flowers, I immediately am going to have to take them away because Triple H, I give you all the praise in the world on a weekly basis. I am one of your biggest supporters, one of your biggest fans, one of your biggest cheerleaders, but I've got a bone to pick with you. What in the actual hell are you doing with Bianca Belair? It's bad enough that you've buried the Street Profits, but now you're going after Bianca, acting like she's Naomi's ditzy sidekick? Like, no disrespect to Naomi, but come on, man. Bianca is the most athletic, commercially marketable women's wrestler in the entire industry, and you're booking her like this? Like, this is unacceptable. Bianca should be the face of the women's division. Anything less than front and center booking is an absolute crime against humanity at this point, or at least against wrestling. And don't even get me started on this who attacked Jade Cargill storyline. Like, enough with the mystery. Let's speed this shit up, Triple H. Open up the folder. Open up to the last chapter. Let's get this story going. Show us who did it. What did they do it with? Where did they do it at? Like, let's get this story moving on. Are we playing Clue? Are we watching Friday Night SmackDown? I'm about over this. You've had Bianca in this bullshit tag team division for over 365 days now, and it's just time to cut the umbilical cord and put her back where she deserves to be. And to make matters worse, you're forcing Bianca Belair to pull double duty and defend the women's tag team titles in NXT. What? Because those girls can't get the job done and can't sell enough tickets? I mean, how are you going to have one of your biggest stars in your company playing second fiddle on Tuesday nights? I mean, I'll frame it as what it is, Triple H. This feels like a step down because it is. And look, I know Jade's probably genuinely injured, and that's why this story's taking so long. But like, let's continue the story with Naomi. Let's continue the story. Here, I got an idea for you, Triple H. Let's have it be that Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson are the ones who attack Jade Cargill. And Jade could show up on NXT to get her retribution, and she could just stay there when she comes back. And she could have a nice little NXT run. She could win the NXT World Championship. And she could be your NXT CW super commercially marketable champion down there. And then we can allow Bianca Belair to get back to being Bianca Belair. Or better yet, we could just go ahead, move Bianca Belair over to Netflix, because that's the show that we all know you really give a shit about. Let's move Bianca over to Netflix, and let's go ahead and pull the trigger on Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley, because that's what we all want to really see. That's what we really want, Triple H. That's the next Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan right there. Let Jade and Naomi, they could have the tag team titles. They could fuck around in NXT. They could fuck around on SmackDown. That's cool. Let's move Bianca to Monday Night Raw. Let's get her back in the main event story. It's time to move on. And now for the worrisome part of SmackDown after that rant is Shinsuke Nakamura. Look, you repackaged Shinsuke Nakamura so perfectly, visually stunning. He's out here looking like a straight up samurai warrior. And I'll admit, I've been playing Ghost of Tsushima on my PlayStation 5 lately. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm just super into samurais right now. But what's the plan for Shinsuke? So we've already seen, you've moved on from LA Knight, which I thought could have been something for Shinsuke, but it looks like LA Knight's now involved with Jacob and Tama Tonga. You got Carmelo Hayes, who seems like he's more interested in Jimmy Uso than actually continuing his journey towards a mid-card title. And you can't tell me that I'm really supposed to get excited about an Andrade versus Shinsuke Nakamura match because I'm not feeling it. So heading into WrestleMania, this feels a little bit to me like a mystery. Like we don't actually know what we're doing. But I will tell you, I think there's some wiggle room here. I think we've got the rumors of Malachi Black. He'd be a perfect fit for Shinsuke Nakamura. We've got Chad Gable, who's on his mission to kind of, I know that Shinsuke's not a luchador, so that doesn't really work, but I think that Chad Gable versus Shinsuke Nakamura after Gable kind of finishes up this lucha story, I think that could work. Or here's my big pitch for you, Triple H. Hear me out. Let's lean into this like samurai Shinsuke Nakamura. Let's go full on Japanese action movie protagonist, and let's just have him single-handedly dismantle the Wyatt Six one member at a time so we could be done with the Spirit Halloween employees. Like picture it. Shinsuke Nakamura has to work his way through like each level of the temple, having to fight off these final bosses, and it ends with him taking down Uncle Howdy at WrestleMania and ending the Wyatt Six for good and allowing them to go back to just being boring mid-carders. I don't know. How do you think that feels? I know it elevates Shinsuke to another level, and it rids us of this Wyatt Six that you have absolutely no idea what to do with. For now, though, we're stuck in limbo. Like, I'm drawing attention to it, Triple H, because it's frustrating. I hope you have a plan. I hope we get some clarity soon. But I think Shinsuke Nakamura as a character deserves better than just a pretty entrance. I think at this point, he deserves an impactful title run. So that's the SmackDown. Good, bad, and worrisome for this week. Let me know what you think. Am I absolutely crazy about the things I say, or do we need to start a petition to fix some of this bad Triple H booking? Let's take that and jump into the headlock news. Former WWE superstar Elias stated that he would love to return to the WWE, saying that there is so much more Elias could do in the company and that the character barely scratched the surface of what it could possibly be. Consider this, guys. This is my dream at the Royal Rumble. Lights go off and we hear WWE. Do you want to walk with Elias? I would be so zeked up. I would be so excited for this. Elias is on my short list of wrestlers who I think didn't get the proper run they deserved. And we could go 2 for 1 here. Let's bring back Elias. Let's also bring back Damian Sandow, and let's let them play brothers. And I promise you, this gimmick will get over. I promise you. This is a 2 for 1 that cannot lose. I promise you that down the road, you present this and you put them in the ring with Kevin Owens. If it's only for one night only, you're going to get wrestling magic. Make it happen, Triple H. If Elias is interested in coming back and you could talk Damian Sandow into coming back, let's tie this thing up real nicely and let's make it happen. But story number 2, watching WWE is about to get a little bit pricier. The streaming company announced on Tuesday a price hike from $15.49 to $17.99. The ad-supported version is jumping up from $7.99 to $7.99 from $6.99. These sons of bitches couldn't even wait a month to increase this shit. These people, these executives at Netflix were so excited about this success of Monday Night Raw that they immediately, they had their finger waiting on this button. Raise prices, raise prices, raise prices. Like, here's what scares me. This is not me being comedic. This is actually a genuine fear I have. The better that Monday Night Raw does, the more that Netflix will think they can charge for their service. And that's a little bit of a scary thought because we all want Monday Night Raw to do well, but the fear is the better it does, the more people it attracts to the service, the more that Netflix feels like they could charge for the service. And the reality is they didn't even wait for the ink to dry. They got 3 episodes into this thing and said, oh no, this is exactly what we thought it was going to be. and now we can raise the prices. Because, like, I'll be realistic with you. The dollar increase doesn't concern me as much as they have a limitless ability to raise the price. And at a certain point, they can start tiering things with, like, live network things that premiere live. And if you want to watch it live, it goes up another $2. And the thing that scares me even more is when the deal with Peacock finally falls apart and ends and premium live events inevitably come to Netflix, what does that look like? Are we paying $34 a month for the entire WWE package? Because then you talk about I'm paying right now, I'm paying what, like $17 for Netflix. I have to pay $14 for Peacock. Then I got to pay $70 for YouTube TV. Watching WWE can be a fairly expensive hobby. That's an issue that I don't think gets talked about. And as they creep these prices up, we'll have to pay attention to that. It appears that despite having quite a bit of time left on her contract, Britt Baker and Tony Khan seem to be at odds. It is said that Tony Khan views her as difficult to work with, and most of the AEW locker room doesn't like her. Well. Does this not sound familiar? Like, is this not the same story that keeps getting regurgitated out of AEW? It sounds to me like Britt Baker might just be a little bit too professional for the AEW roster. Leave it to Tony Khan, Mr. Take Zero Blame for situations. But here's the reality, Tony. You brought in Saraya. You brought in Mercedes Moné. You brought in Tony Storm. And you didn't protect Britt Baker while all of this was going on. And so these original pillars of your company, you did exactly what you said you weren't going to do. You said you weren't going to replace them with thrown away WWE talent, and you immediately have gone and grabbed every person that you can get from the WWE roster. And here's the problem. This is the issue. Britt Baker, like CM Punk, was maybe one of your most commercially viable superstars on your roster. And you just continue to show that you can't evaluate talent. Does she not do enough flips, Tony? Does she not kiss your ass enough, Tony? Does she not take the right amount of mandatory shots at WWE, Tony? What's hilarious now, this is what it's not funny because this is people's lives, but I find this ironic, is that 3 years ago, the IWC and the AEW fans would fucking murder Vince McMahon when he wouldn't let somebody out of their contract because they were unhappy and not being used. Now we look over at AEW and we go, oh, we got, the Malachi Blacks, we got the Ricky Starks, we got the Britt Bakers, we got the Phoenix. We got all these names that are being held hostage by Tony Khan, and IWC is not speaking up and coming to these people's defense. It's funny. All we did was get rid of one dipshit millionaire owner and replace him with a different dipshit owner millionaire. He's just in a different company. But the reality is, let's keep that same energy. Let me see the IWC start #free Britt Baker. Y'all want to see an experiment in actual wrestling logic? Let Britt Baker come to WWE and see if she doesn't become a star immediately. See if she doesn't take the exact same course as CM Punk. Let's see if she doesn't come into the locker room and exist. Let's see if she doesn't come in and act happy. Maybe, just maybe, the factor in all of these upset people in AEW isn't them. Maybe it's Tony Khan. Maybe, right? So WWE just announced a multi-year partnership with TNA Wrestling where the talent will be able to cross over programs to get more exposure. Cora Jade has already appeared at TNA Genesis confronting Masha Slamovich, which can't be a real name. When I read this, Masha Slamovich, great wrestling name. Absolute great wrestling, but can't be a real name, right? That's not a real... There's a person in TNA. I'm not watching TNA. Maybe I need to be watching TNA. If there's a Masha Slamovich, I need to be watching TNA to see what Masha Slamovich is all about. But listen, here, look. WWE just bought TNA without paying an absolute dollar for the company. because we know who's steering the deal. We know who's in control of the creative. This is just absolute. WWE now has 2 developmental branches, not one, not just NXT. WWE now has the entire TNA roster at their disposal. They can pick up any TNA superstar they want. I believe they just signed Jordan Grace, which huge acquisition for WWE. But they now have, like I said, they have access to every TNA superstar. In exchange, TNA gets to advertise WWE superstars and they get to show up. And it's just familiar names that get people to watch. They are going to get a certain amount of follow. There are a certain amount of WWE junkies who watch Raw. They watch SmackDown. They watch NXT. And now that Cora Jade and these WWE superstars are showing up on TNA, it's going to spill over and they're going to watch TNA. I've already seen it within our community. I think it's awesome. I think that just shows strategically WWE is closing every door. They're pushing AEW farther and farther down the WWE watch list, because before you had a lot of people who watched SmackDown, Raw, and Dynamite, but now it feels like you have a lot of people who are watching SmackDown, Raw, and I'll supplement that with NXT. And now it feels like that from NXT, the next logical jump is going to be TNA, because I already live in this ecosystem. So why would I go over to something that doesn't make sense to me? It's absolutely brilliant from my point of view. And last story here, it appears that WWE snuck in a subtle tease for the return of Malachi Black. If you weren't paying attention, you might have missed it. Check out this clip right here.
Judgment Day, JD McNidge, I'm off to master the dark arts of Lucha Libre.
So I didn't catch it when it originally aired on Monday Night Raw, but this feels like to me a Triple H teaser. Like Malachi Black operates the school called the Dark Arts of Wrestling. So like this is absolutely this feels intentional. And I think it's a great way to introduce Malachi Black back into the WWE universe, would be to align him with a Chad Gable as kind of a mentor, is kind of like a sensei, a dark arts sensei, the lucha killer, which then ultimately could lead later down the line to Chad Gable versus Malachi Black, which to me, that's going to be wrestling magic. So based on the recent history of the way Triple H has teased things and the way he's been willing to slip little like subtle hints with CM Punk and the Wyatt Six, this definitely feels intentional to me. All right, so it's that time again for everybody's favorite part of the Casual Wrestling Podcast. It's time for the Casual Wrestling main event. So last week I gave you 15 through 11 of the top NXT superstars I want to see show up in the Royal Rumble. This week, I'm breaking down 10 through 6, starting with, at number 10, Julia. Now, I'll be real honest with you. This feels like a little bit of an obligation. I did watch NXT last night. And so I did see my first kind of real kind of representation of what Julie is. I think she's good. She has a good look. Everything kind of checks out. But I think her being number 10 on this list feels a little bit more like how good everybody tells me she is versus how much I believe I'd be excited to see her. I think I'll be excited if she shows up. I think if she shows up at the Royal Rumble, I'd be excited. But I think it'd be more excitement for everybody else than it is excitement for me. So that's why she hits number 10. At number 9, I have Jada Parker. And where Julia felt like an obligation, Jada Parker feels like a no-brainer to me. She has main roster written all over her. Now, I know she got a little bit of some strange publicity this last week, and WWE might be keen to keep her off of a show with Jey Uso, but I personally wouldn't mind seeing her enter the Royal Rumble. I think she creates some interesting dynamics, size-wise, attitude-wise, look-wise. I think she'll threaten a lot of people's spot if she shows up at the Royal Rumble. At number 8, I have Lexis King. And I said this last week, and I'm going to say it again this week. I'm a sucker for a good gimmick. And he's got a look to him, Lexis King. And his gimmick, I like what they're kind of running in NXT. I've been paying attention to Lexis King and what's going on to him in NXT because he's a guy I actually liked in AEW. I don't know what it was. I don't know why I took an affinity to his character and to who he was, but I've actually kind of liked him and I've followed his stories into NXT. So I think he's a guy that could add some comic relief or just a spark to the Royal Rumble. Like I said, his look alone is enough that if someone turns it on and they've never seen Lexus King, they're just going to go, who the hell is that guy? I like that guy. At number 7, I have Ego. All Ego. It's Ethan Page. I have Ethan Page. After calling out John Cena, this makes sense. Have him show up. This is the starting point of what I believe will be one of the first feuds that John Cena gets into on his return tour. I think Ethan Page makes sense. Cena's going to need a couple guys to step on, to get going, to kind of get back in rhythm. He's going to need a couple guys that he can kind of, little punching bags. And that is not meant to be a shot against Ethan Page by any means, because I think Ethan Page extremely good. But John Cena is going to need some warm-up, tune-up type situations. And so I think he's a guy that could benefit from a Cena rub. No Diddy. But I think that, seeing him and John Cena square up in the Royal Rumble would be fun. And then number 6, I have Roxanne. And I know this is blasphemy to a lot of people, right? A lot of people, she'd be top 5. But to me, based on her interactions with Bayley, I think this is a lock. I think that more than likely Roxanne's in the Royal Rumble. I could have been kind of deceitful and moved her down the list just based on being able to say that I'm right. But the reality is, I don't find Roxy that interesting. I'm not that excited. I get the value that she adds, and maybe she'll grow on me over time, but she's not top 5 excitement for me. So next week, I'll drop the top 5 people that I'm interested in seeing come from NXT to the main roster for the Royal Rumble. Make sure to check that out. Let's move on and let's do, we got a very special bitch slap this week. All right, so it's time for the segment where I take the gloves off and I hand out some verbal bitch slaps. This is where I respond to the loudest, most ridiculous, or downright clueless comments from the IWC. Whether it's bad takes, false facts, or just plain nonsense, I'm here to set the record straight and defend the Casual Wrestling Championship like my life depends on it. So if you came out swinging at the king, you better grab a chair because it's about to get real. And this week's first bitch slap came out of left field. But I got to bitch slap YouTube. So apparently I received a sweet little warning email from YouTube telling me that I'm not allowed to use people's screen names in a negative segment on a podcast. What? So YouTube, these IWC scumbags, these IWC dipshits can just flood my comment section. They can attack me, call me every name in the book. But the second I use my platform to respond, nope, that's not allowed. That YouTube, that sounds so fair. It's a wonder why so many people have switched over to that other live streaming video platform. But let's get real. Who's soft ass baby back bitch in the IWC? Who is the soft ass that ran crying to YouTube and reported the segment? Like, I get it. I hit nerves. I get it that I verbally bitch slap you little fragile, you basement dwellers. But you ran it. You tattle-told? You tattle-told on me? But don't worry. Don't worry, YouTube. I get it. No names. No names. Cool. I'll just call them IWC dipshits from now on. We'll label them all IWC dipshits because they know what they wrote. They'll know who it's for. It'll be special. It'll be more intimate. It'll be between me and them that they know I'm calling them out. So since last week I had to bitch slap dipshit 1 and dipshit 2, this week it's only right that we move on to dipshit number 3. So dipshit number 3 slid into my TikTok DMs with this little gem. He said, "Hey, nerdy, you claim that WWE has the best storytelling, but they already shit the bed with this Penta story. Second week in another random match. What great storytelling." Hello, dipshit number 3. Let's break this down, okay? And I'll do it slowly so that you can follow along. First of all, please tell me that you understand we're introducing a new wrestler to a casual fan base that's never seen him before. Like, you don't just toss Penta into a convoluted storyline on day one. You build momentum with high energy matches against familiar faces so people can see his style. They can see his moves. They could feel his vibe. The story right now is kind of the high that Penta's on. But let's take it a step deeper. The overarching storyline here is that Gable is now going off to train on how to beat Penta. That's a long-term story. I know you AEW guys, you struggle with long-term story and what that actually means. But this is what it is. In the meantime, WWE is going to use subplots to showcase Penta's skill. You know, that's storytelling. Go read a book on don't just say storytelling. Go read a book on what storytelling actually is. There's a science to how it works. It's not just random matches slapped together because some executive went on Twitter and said, I have an announcement. That's not how it works. But here's the bigger thing, my guy. Stop moving the goalpost, because I remember your name, and last week you wrote me and said that Penta was going to be in the LWO this week, which I didn't think I saw him with the LWO this week. So which is it, my guy? You want to talk about casual fans being impatient, but look at you. You're stomping your feet like a toddler because you can't handle multiple faceted storytelling. Here's the real issue, though. It burns you up inside. This is the real problem. It burns you up inside that in 2 weeks, Penta is already more over in WWE than he ever was in AEW. It burns you up inside because you can see the writing on the wall of what's coming next, right? It's Malachi Black. He's right behind him. And then you can see the writing on the wall that when Britt Baker's contract finally is up, she'll be the next one to come over and be successful. And then it'll be Phoenix who comes over and be successful. You're a sinking ship of a promotion, and it stings when these people break free of the cancer and they go find success. But you're not ready for that conversation. So let me leave you with this. Maybe next time when you want to critique storytelling, just pick up a book on storytelling and learn to understand what actual storytelling is. Because that ain't what you're talking about. You don't understand it. That ain't it. You've been bitch slapped. All right? Just take it like a man. Don't run to YouTube and cry about it. You've been bitch slapped. All right, guys, before we get out of here, let's preview next week's big matchups and make some bold predictions. Think of it, this is like your next week pregame show, but we'll do it right now. Starting with SmackDown, we're getting LA Knight versus Tama Tonga. This, to me, has chaos written all over it. I think LA Knight still riding his momentum. Tama Tonga, you know, he's kind of a wild card. We don't know what happens with Tama Tonga. My prediction, though, is that this is more going to be about LA Knight and Solo Sikoa. I think that Solo could interfere and take this story in a different direction. If it's not this week, I think in the near future, I think the goal might be to get us to LA Knight versus Solo Sikoa, somebody who can verbally spar with LA Knight. I think I'm going to call this one this week a DQ finish. LA Knight could win. There's still part of me, LA Knight could win and Solo could attack him after the match. But I think we're setting up for bigger things. I think this has bigger implications. I don't think all of a sudden we've put LA Knight into a match with Tama Tonga and that's the end story for LA Knight. I just don't believe that to be true. We have the Motor City Machine Guns versus Pretty Deadly. Shenanigans are at play. We know this with Pretty Deadly. They're all about comedy. The Motor City Machine Guns aren't about comedy. I think they're about business. So I think we're headed towards a DIY versus Motor City Machine Guns rematch. This will have all the telltales of a Pretty Deadly match. There'll be some goof in it. They're great in the ring. Nothing wrong with being a little goofy, but I think they'll end up licking their wounds, and Motor City Machine Guns will win this match and get a rematch against DIY in the very near future. So let's talk about Saturday Night Main Event. That's the real big thing happening this weekend, and that's the thing that I've gone back and forth with. ticket prices are ridiculous. I can't believe that tickets to a Saturday night main event are like $180 each. It's convinced me it's way better to just stay at home and watch than it is to go fight traffic, drive all the way down there for a bunch of matches that I feel like I could predict pretty well. Like, the reason you go to Saturday night main event at this point, I think it's really for non-story following wrestling fans. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I get proved wrong. But I'll probably be watching it from home. But let's start with Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax in what appears to be a non-title match. I said it earlier, this match is intriguing because no title on the line adds a layer of unpredictability. I like that because it gives just the glimmer of hope that Nia Jax could actually win this match, that Candice LeRae could get involved and cost Rhea Ripley, that there could be implications down the road. But I'm going to play it safe here. Give me Rhea Ripley. She's too dominant. We're heading into WrestleMania season. She just became champion. I don't think this is where Rhea Ripley takes a loss. So then we go Braun Breaker versus Sheamus. And to me, in my heart of hearts, I want Sheamus to finish this story, but it doesn't feel like a Saturday night in San Antonio is where that's going to happen. And to be honest with you, as we roll into WrestleMania season, I don't think this is where you turn the volume down on a Braun Breaker. I think this is where you take Braun Breaker and you crank him up to 100. So I think Sheamus will put up a fight. He always does. But I think Braun Breaker is going to retain the Intercontinental title here. And I think that we're going to see a big cranking volume with Braun Breaker in the next months as we lead up. They want him to have a big WrestleMania showing. That's what I believe. So the match that intrigues me is the Jacob Fatu versus Braun Strowman that was kind of thrown on us last week. Here's the thing, Triple H, just don't mess this up. That's all I'm asking. Like, we know what's going to happen, but don't mess it up. Jacob Fatu should not take a pin, ever. Especially not here. It's not to Braun Strowman. Don't let Braun Strowman be the hero. I'll even accept a squash match at this point with Jacob Fatu. Give me a squash match. Jacob's a beast. He's a bona fide star in the making. My prediction, Jacob Fatu in a decisive win. Protect this man at all costs. Let him shine. And let's start building up Jacob to be the next big threat to whoever, to Cody, to Roman, to Gunther, to Seth Rollins, whoever it is. Let's start building the Jacob. Let's get on the Jacob Fatu train and start making it happen. So then we go Jey Uso versus Gunther. And every fiber in my body says that Triple H is determined to keep shoving Gunther down our throats. And every fiber in my body says that Triple H keeps using these big baby faces to try to get Gunther some heel heat. And we need a hero. And that's not a kayfabe. We need a hero as fans. We need a change. Jey Uso is the most over star in the company right now. Let's see what he can do. Give him the ball and let him run. Give me, this is big. I'm taking a leap of faith here. Give me Jey Uso as your new world heavyweight champion coming out of Saturday night main event. This puts to rest all the ideas that these are glorified house shows. This gets him out of the Royal Rumble, which I think could be messy. This puts the title on an extremely, extremely exciting guy going into WrestleMania. And I've convinced myself I like the Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens situation, but I'm not opposed to any different order of Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Jey Uso. And I'm not opposed to a triple threat match between the three. I like all of those different scenarios. So give me Jey Uso, your new world heavyweight champion, coming out of Saturday night main event. On next week's Raw, we have Logan Paul coming back. Best guess for this is he's just going to declare for the Royal Rumble. Don't expect a lot more than that. Maybe he takes a shot at John Cena, seeing if he can get a little bit of traction there. I wouldn't be surprised if he interacts with the New Day, because they seem to be that group that is interacting with the guest stars just to get a reaction from the crowd. But otherwise, I expect it to be short and sweet. I expect it to just be a declaration of, I'm here, I'm winning the Royal Rumble, and that's what it is. We're getting the War Raiders versus the Judgment Day. JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio are stepping up for the Judgment Day this time. This feels like a vehicle to just push Finn Balor's story forward. There's zero chance the War Raiders lose here, right? Like, no question. They continue to push forward. We have other tag teams laying in wait. I think we're growing closer and closer towards the Judgment Day implosion. So I think that's what this is about. But there you have it. That's this week's biggest matches, the boldest predictions. Jey Uso could be your new world champion next week when we talk. It's shaping up to be a very fun weekend of wrestling. So as always, come back for the fallout of what happens. Stay casual, and I will talk to you guys next week.
Pod, don't stumble. No peace, no rest in this fight. Breaking it down under the spotlight. No forgiveness, never giving. Every match, every take.